Howdy folks, Tex Grebner here with Tex Grebner Outdoors. Forgive the anime style audio, but the rain was hellacious on the original audio. So I'm going to be showing you how to solo run a trot line. The first step is to shoot your line across. You can either do this with a bow fishing setup or tie on a fishing line to your arrow and shoot it across with a normal fishing reel.
Now I should specify this only really works if you can get to the other bank. And I do understand, of course, that in some portions of the United States, trot lines are not legal.
As you may have guessed already, this is a classical Tex Grebner Outdoors comedy of errors. So the first thing you want to do is put a stake in on the opposite bank so that you can tie off your main line. The reason that it's called a trot line is you have a main line with trots hanging off of it. It's important to have a trot bucket for both safety and convenience, and you're going to want to measure out a good estimate of how much main line you're going to need to get back to the first bank that you shot your arrow from. You're going to want to also be careful when you are putting on your trots onto your main line. Now these trots I have wire rigged with coated steel leader. Now I made a horrible mistake here in that it's a magic bait trot line, so I used magic bait dough balls. This would eventually become a very big problem for me. However, once you have your main line measured out, you're going to want to put on all your trots, which are the lines or leaders that dangle down, and then bait them on the bank. Tie off the bow line onto your trot reel spool, and then eventually you're going to want to pull it back across. Here you see my trot line laid out, staked down, and ready.
I'm just going to reel this back across and hope that I fed out enough line to it.
Once you reach the opposite bank or your original bank, pull your bow line or your fishing line back across and drag your trot line off the bank and back into the water. Now normally when I'm doing this, it wouldn't be spur of the moment as it was in this case, and so I would be using beef stew meat marinated in stink bait or chicken livers in pantyhose. However, when I pulled it off the bank, my bait disintegrated. Do not use magic bait dough balls when attempting to solo rig a trot line.
I will not be beaten. The store didn't have any chicken livers or chicken hearts, so we're going to drown some worms. Now the bluegills out in here will probably have these hooks picked clean by the time that I come back to check it in the morning. But by God, we're setting a trap.
Now, of course, this was my 5th trip around the pond, and I was retrieving the trot line's main line after having measured out enough to get me back across, and I decided that we were going old school here and that I was going to be running this trot line with night crawlers. So yet again, bait all your trot hooks, and then you would pull it across. Now, I mentioned chicken livers in stockings and beef stew meat that's been marinated in stink bait, because this makes it difficult for smaller panfish and bait fish to pick apart your bait, and makes you more susceptible to your target species. However, we shall see what happens with night crawlers in this instance. Once I finally got my trot line in complete working order, it was time to tie it off and leave it. You want your hooks in the main channel of your body of water, not too close to the bank, and about equidistant from both shores. I leave you for now, and I will return in the morning. Welcome back. The rain has stopped, and I see some movement on the line. Two catfish. So this adventure, despite the rain, has been a success. So now, I'm going to go over to the other side, and I'm going to take out my stake and pull these bad boys back over. Now it's important to take off your trots as you pull this back in. And here we have our first catfish. Very good eating size. You stay. And here's our second catfish. Again, real good eating size. You stay too. And now all I'm doing is just taking my trots back off my line so that I can wind it up. I can honestly say that I am overjoyed. This is much more than I expected. As I mentioned earlier in this video, in many areas trot lines are illegal. Now, one reason that trot lines would be illegal is that they can be an environmental hazard. For instance, marine wildlife can get hooked up in trot lines. Fish-eating birds, if you're using cut bait, will dive in and grab your cut bait and take your hook. And let's say that you are trot lining in a river that people swim in.
if somebody gets one of these hooks into them, especially if it's wire rigged like this, and they are down under the water getting wrapped up, that person will more than likely drown, just because trot lines are meant to hold hundreds of pounds worth of fish in the end. So one struggling and drowning human that happened to drift into a trot line doesn't stand a chance for breaking free. So it's important that as soon as you are done with it, that you retrieve your trot line, that you retrieve your hooks. Speaking of which, here's two that actually fell out of my bucket last night. But personal responsibility is a big deal. So if you are going to trot line, do it responsibly and do it safely. And always make sure that you do retrieve your trot line and check it at least once a day and follow your local regulations. Here they are, two good-sized farm pond catfish on a solo trot line. Started out pretty rocky, and I totally honestly thought, man, them bluegills are gonna pick them hooks clean before morning. But here you see, sometimes in fishing, you get lucky. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching. We have now gone from fish to food. Whether its blood is green or whether its blood is red, life feeds on life, and all life is sacred, whether you are vegan or not. And so, we now have 4 good-sized catfish fillets, and you may get to see me cook them up. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this adventure, and I hope that it was potentially educational for you, if not very entertaining. As always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please check out my friends over at legallyconcealed.org. Thank you very much to those of you involved in law enforcement and those of you serving in the military. And thanks for watching Tex Grebner Outdoors.